I am feeling quite good right now. I got a whole bunch of tuna, chicken, and ground beef, all in their most prepped states. The tuna and the chicken being canned, which that gets a lot of hate for the chicken specifically. Gets hated on for having higher sodium levels. Right? Like if you were to just get a chicken breast straight out of the meat section, no additional sodium, right? And sodium gets hated on. If you drink a ton of water, it balances out. Like if I drink 3 gallons of water with a normal amount of like electrolytes, like whatever the basic recommended amount would be. If I drank 3 gallons of water, or let's say I was extra crazy. I mean, if I was really trying, I could probably drink 6 gallons of water in a day. There'd be no point, but I could do it. So guess how much sodium or electrolytes I'd end up getting through my system? Probably like 20 times the recommended daily amount for like a regular dude. Which even that is kind of wild, because I mean, when you look at a lot of anything bodybuilding related or diet specific, it always just leeches, or not leeches, but it returns back to the common statement of something along the lines of, oh well, you're only supposed to have this much a day. Really? FDA recommends 50 grams of protein a day, and guess what? That's where we differ, right? Eggs, whole eggs, right? Straight out of an organic, wild, roaming kind of coop. Not recommended. Right? Diets. So I'm not saying there's no point to those recommendations, but some of them feel like they're a little behind the curve. If you kind of catch what I'm saying. I'm not saying I know better than whatever, but all I'm getting at is, if you're eating a food with a ton of sodium, like a canned chicken, if you drink a healthy amount of water, or like if you have a liter of water with that, you're fine, right? The problem with sodium when it comes to, when guys talk about holding water or getting bloated, it's only when you have a massive change in your sodium intake, Like if I were to basically have low sodium, like make sure I only eat whatever amount, I don't know how much, like 500 milligrams in a day or something, and then all of a sudden one day, or if you take a regular dude and then all of a sudden you give him a ton of crazy salty food the next day, and you don't increase his water intake accordingly, well then yeah, the guy's probably going to feel kind of weird, just because now he's got a ton of just weird kind of sodium imbalance in his system. But if you're drinking a ton of water too, and making sure you're well hydrated, the sodium's good, right? Having extra electrolytes is good. For me, right now, the point of coming into the gym isn't like, okay, I need to eat a ton of food and meals first, so I'm full of carbs and full of energy. No, that's not the point right now, because I'm dieting. So what I really want to make sure is that I'm well hydrated. I've only got a couple of the Sula Gila mixes, and they're all dirty right now, but I've got like a little, this is an old like smoothie bottle, and it's a little bigger, you tell me. So we took a little while to actually make those like mold kind of custom embossed shakers. Would you guys want a Sula jug? Usually I'm one to just rock any jug, but I don't really feel cool drinking pre out of something like this. But you tell me. But getting back on track. What am I saying? Salt. Too much salt. Salt's not the enemy. So if you drink enough fluids, what I'm trying to do is come into the gym well hydrated, so that even though I'm not full of carbs and glycogen and whatever, I've still got enough fluids and electrolytes to leverage a good pump, and really still lift well and feel good. Guys who complain about just any kind of aches or soreness, or they get exertion headaches, that's just stemming from dehydration, man. Anytime I've ever asked somebody who had an exertion headache, or just had any kind of headache in the gym, and I ask them, like, how much water did you drink today? Did you have any electrolyte packets of any kind? Oh, well, I had a Monster. Right? It's not going to cut it, but it's a very simple solution. But I've got the tuna and the chicken and the ground beef. So 3 pounds of ground beef cooked, put into a salad bowl. That, honestly, is a very good method. I'm not exactly one to prep individual meals where I'm going to have like a single small serving Tupperware where I've got like 6 of them stacked on top of each other. If I'm ever kind of traveling around, that's probably a better method. But since all the food's at home anyway, and that's where I'm eating it, having the base forms of whatever those meals are going to be just there and ready, I mean, it's quick. You know, if you've got 3 pounds of ground beef cooked in the fridge, ready for you to just scoop out your half pound at once and go, dude, very efficient. Then I got a bunch of rice cakes too. I don't have to lock into the like no salt rice cakes. That's months down the line, right? So I've got a couple of the flavored versions. The white cheddar goes crazy. The apple or the caramel apple, those ones are also pretty wild. And I mean, even just a regular salted rice cake, it's not bad. You know, gets too much hate, I feel. And I never saw more rice cakes at once than at the 2 bodybuilding shows that I did earlier this year. Like, everybody's backstage just munching on them. It was kind of fun. But just a simple, easily digestible carb source, that's what I like to have back there as well. So right now I'm in the phase of dieting where I'm not really, I don't have to lock in per se, in the sense that I have to like really hold myself to this specific calorie number, because for me to just eat in kind of a graze and like make sure I hit my protein, that's just about, if not maintenance, maybe a little bit under, you know, because right now I'm in kind of a state of, you know, not starvation from eating so much food, and I'm kind of you know, sick of the intake. So for the next few weeks, this diet is gonna go by like a breeze. Like I'll lose however many pounds of body fat over the next month. Not a ton, maybe like 3 or 4, I don't know, something like that. But it's not going to feel like a chore because I don't have a crazy massive appetite right now. But the longer that I diet and the more kind of just basically time that I, you know, keep myself in line and hold off on eating things that I want to eat, or, you know, things like that, that's when it just gets gradually and progressively harder to stay consistent with, you know. So that's where the longer you're dieting, the more tricks you might have to pull out of your sleeve, you know. So right now, for me to just get a big bowl of ground beef, you know, melt 1 slice of American cheese onto it, not necessarily for the nutritional benefit, you know, it's got 3 grams of fat, 2 grams of protein, 4 grams of carbs, something along those lines. It's just because I like it, and that amount of carbs, fats, and proteins is very manageable. Like it's 50 calories. I can handle an extra 50 calories from that. But that's working fine. For me to have eaten that like 3 hours ago, I'm feeling good, you know. But later on, it's going to get to the point where I'm really kind of fiending for eating something, and that's where I'm going to pull out the stops. I'm talking busting out the 0-carb Greek yogurt mixed with fat-free powdered peanut butter with a little bit of sugar-free maple syrup plus some frozen berries, like things like that, sort of as a treat. Like there's a lot of little things you can add like that, and I think I should this diet, I'm gonna make a point about actually kind of, you know, putting together, I guess you could say, the Sulik cookbook of dieting tricks. You know, I don't have like a ton, but I do have a few staples that I do always kind of, you know, revert back to, because for me they work. So it's not like it's a, you know, end all be all, like this is an awesome trick for everybody, but for me at least I like them, and they help keep me in line, making sure that I stay under my calorie limits. But that'll be for later on, you know. So until then, I'll just make sure I keep hitting my protein and then eat accordingly. And not only eat accordingly, but drink accordingly. You know, I think I'm already nearly a gallon deep for the day, so 4 liters or so. When I'm dieting, I do end up drinking a bit more. Just, I don't know, maybe it's like, because I mean, there's no calories if you're drinking a bunch of something. You know, if you're drinking a whole bunch of like diet soda or something, it's not necessarily that you're full, but it does kind of give you a little bit of that fullness sensation. Plus, it's kind of tricking your mind because you're drinking something sweet, so you're kind of getting that, you know, scratch of your itch of your sweet tooth, but at no caloric detriment. So if diet soda doesn't mess with your stomach or anything, which I have never experienced. Like I've slammed more than what people would feel is a normal amount of diet soda in a day, or like the Crystal Light or things along those lines. I've never felt a problem, you know, so that's that might be an individual case by case sort of deal. But for me, it definitely works. But I think no more talking. I'm really getting on a ramble now. I wonder if I'm feeling low carb or something. But yeah, playing for chest. How about we talk about it once we're in there? Because actually I got to kind of gather exactly what I think this lift is going to look like. So give me a little bit to, what's the word? Give me a little bit to draw up how this workout is going to go. And then we can see if, I guess we can just throw it at the wall and see if it sticks. All right, let's go back and forth between a bit more of kind of a pumping set and a heavier press. So I'm going to start with kind of bent over hand presses. And these are actually even a little bit flatter, a little more decline, you know, and I'm usually the incline kind of guy. But as a starter, I like these a lot. Yeah, I don't need a ton of weight because I can really get a good squeeze and burn. And not only that, but doing the hand over hand alternating, I feel like I get an extra deep flex at the bottom, because now instead of just, you know, stopping here and I'm just running into my own hands, I can go just that little bit further, you know? So it's like, instead of doing curls where you just have to stop here, I actually get a whole extra level of squeeze, you know? And I wouldn't want to do this movement only, like forever. This isn't my end-all be-all chest movement. But in a mix, you know, next is going to be probably some incline Smith, maybe some incline chest press and whatever. This is a good back and forth, right? But this is definitely more just, I guess let's just say burning, or a burning movement for sure. Let me pick a better song. All right. Okay. Oh, okay. One more. All right, quick 3-plater, nothing wild. Oh, one more. Hey, I'm really feeling that in my chest from doing those starter sets of cables. And obviously you're going to feel a press in your chest. But to have done those squeezing sets earlier, kind of priming myself for the burn, that felt extra good. One more, then shit, I'm going back. Right? Let's run it up. Fuck. No wonder that side felt light. There's only 2 plates over here. All right, one second. No. Duh. Duh. Okay, back to the cables. Oh my goodness. Okay. Oh, dude, this shit just feels extra good today. One more, and then we'll go from there. Okay. I think just some straight up flies will be good. A little quicker paced. The new 3 Days Grace album is going nuts. Ooh. Ooh, okay. Guess what I'm going to finish with. It shouldn't be a surprise. Ooh. Okay. Drop from 130 to 80. Oh, okay. All right. Let's get these lights off and see how we're looking. Pump-wise, purely by feeling, this will be good. All right, let's see how we're looking in some pretty cinematic side lighting. Oh, yeah. Not a ton of love for the squeeze as of late. Everybody's hyping up stretch and all sorts of randomness. But I will say a strong component of my most pumped up lifts is making sure, at least for, maybe a 40% or something of the sets are ones that have a good squeeze and hold at the bottom. I've got three basic styles almost. I've got semi-lightweight that really squeezes and holds for a second. That would be like a preacher curl where I actually sit, or a rope where I hold it, or those cable presses kind of counted. I got a really good squeeze. I didn't sit and hold it though, so that's kind of questionable. So that's one, a squeezing burning set. Then there's just a heavy hard set, heavy incline Smith, that hit there too. And then there's just slightly moderate weight, quick, fast stretch to squeezed, flexing kind of pumper sets. And today, yippee-ki-yo, I hit all three. So let's see how some of these side chest poses are looking. Oh, goodness. Oh, but that's getting me excited. Seeing even just like a hint of some shoulder grain on the side. only 2 days into an off season, and I'm already seeing some shoulder striations. That's one thing that I'm kind of blessed with on a genetic standpoint. And maybe it's a size thing, I don't know. I did a lot of gymnastics when I was younger, and there's a lot of shoulder strength involved, because like, you ever see the videos where the guys are in the tight pants, there's the 2 wooden bars, and they're swinging around like this? That's a lot of shoulder, so I think I had good shoulders from that just as a youngin'. But just having them kind of all like cut up with those lines and things, the leaner I get, the wilder that freaking looks. And I'm really excited to see just how crazy it's going to look this time. Because look, I mean, I've gotten lean before, there's no question about it. But I'm going to take it an extra level further in the coming months. If you can kind of, freaking imagine. And the leaner I get, the more different poses will look pretty cool. Like when you've got cut up, you got a cut up midsection, you're not just going to sit and do like some basic chest poses. When I've got a chest pump bulked, usually, I mean, you've seen it, side chest, sometimes the lat spread, most muscular, get out of there. But once I start getting more of a cut up midsection, I mean, I'll just be sitting here doing all sorts of shit like this, just like whatever, just because it looks freaking cool, So that's the reward, right? At the end of the tunnel of a decent bulk, you might put some body fat on. We've all been there. The light at the end of it, that's when you start to realize, oh shit, I am a little bigger. I have put some size on. When I cut down, I'm going to be freakier than I've ever looked, because I put in some mass gaining size over a period of time and delayed the gratification of really getting to enjoy that mass until later. And those who can't stand that, right? They love being lean. They just don't want to, like, for the sake of getting bigger, the cost of having to, get a more normal, like 14, 12-ish% body fat. I'm talking about the guys who love hanging out at like 8, like they're trying to be diced on the regular. Of course, I'm not going to say anything is wrong. Do what you want to do. But for me, from the perspective of someone who's done a considerable number of bulks and actually had them work and, been able to diet out of them successfully, I feel like I get the best of both worlds, because I get heavy ass lifts when I'm bulked and wild, just grainy, poses at the end, plus just feeling like cool and lean when I'm cut up, so that's my perspective, right? It's like if somebody asks you your favorite food, that's not even a good question, because there's so many different kinds of food to enjoy, and to pick one is almost close-minded, right? So I'm not going to limit myself just to a bulk or just to a cut, right? I want to experience the entire facet of what lifting, in the pursuit of size has to offer. But I think nothing else to discuss. Let's get out of here. Very good lift. I'm leaving a happy camper today. There we go. All right. You know what's better? You want to know what's better than getting in a lift with your boys, meeting some new characters, making some new connection with guys on the exact same wavelength as you, who are seriously into the same things that you're about? Well, I can tell you, doing it again after a period of time and being better than you were the first time, right? And just as a group, you can tell. Like, I've gotten to see guys, year after year and say, holy crap, this guy is way bigger than I remember. Or this guy is, holy crap, this guy got cut. Sort of things along those lines. And it's, for me, like every time I get to go to any kind of expo, any kind of gathering, any kind of whatever, and get to see dudes, I mean, for one, who I've only ever seen on my phone before, and I'm like, holy crap, look at this freaking guy. It's just, it's just cool to know that the progress you're making, and not even that it means something, because it would mean something regardless, but it's more so just like, I don't know, I can't even describe it, right? It's like you haven't seen your buddy for a year or two or whatever, and you're both wilder at whatever you've been into than you were last time, to the point where you don't have to talk about it. It's even unspokenly known. You know what I'm saying? So for any of you guys who are just now, I mean, yeah, it's about school time. So any of you youngins, and I don't want to say youngins by that much of a margin, but I mean, I'm sure you, if you're my age-ish, older, younger, whatever, you probably feel like you're a completely different guy at the end of college versus the beginning. You know, it's I'd say that's a pretty solid coming of age sort of thing compared to even just, I mean, high school too, right? Like you as a freshman versus you as a senior. Who the hell was that guy? You know. But if you're about to embark, let's say you're one of those cross country kind of guys. I went to school in state, so I wasn't too far. It's still a couple hour drive, you know. But if you're totally uprooting yourself and you're saying, I'm going to be a whole new guy, man. I'm leaving Louisiana. I'm going to NYU. I'm going to I'm going to Stanford. I'm going to wherever, right? I'm hauling off, and you're gonna whatever. You know what I'm saying? But if you're gonna be gone for a while, that's kind of a good time to start to bring it. You know, nobody around there knows what you can or can't do, or will stick to, or are capable of. So it's kind of a good time for some self-investment. You know, like it might not seem like a lot. Just imagine. I mean, what's an hour a day? You know, I'm sure you play on your phone for hours a day, and I'm not like calling you out. I do the same shit. You know, so to direct one of those towards anything, doesn't have to be working out, but obviously I'm going to be talking about working out. You know, if you can just put in one of those hours into stopping at the rec center, at a local gym, at a whatever. I mean, we all know. Well, I guess for us, we're the guys who do work out, but everyone knows somebody who's in the gym. And if I knew, if one of my buddies who I hadn't talked to for a while, or still talk to but aren't really into the working out, if they told me that they wanted to come lift, I'd say, yeah, let's go hit it. Right? Get a PFIT membership. Let's go hang out over there, bust out some anything, you know. So it's the barrier to entry is very low, but the reward is very high. You know, and I get it. For the uninitiated, they don't really understand what we know about, like, just lifting, right? It's not just looking a certain way. It's just this, like, physical, like, exertion that you can't emulate with anything else. I mean, I guess if you're really into your sport, right? Let's say you're a die-hard wrestler or something along those lines, then that's a little bit different, you know. So if you've got a physical endeavor that you're into, let's say you're a BJJ kind of guy, you know, whatever, that's a little different, right? That is kind of on a pretty similar wavelength, just as, you know, a different kind of physical training, you know. But if you're just kind of doing tasks that are a little bit more, maybe not mundane, but just less physically demanding, then I think you need to add a little bit of something. You know, it doesn't have to be trying to squat like Tom Platz, or hitting a crazy high volume chest day like going back and finding a Jay Cutler tape or an Arnold workout or anything along those lines. But to not work out, you're giving yourself a disservice, you know. And it's kind of something where you don't know until you do it, and you start to kind of feel that just, I don't even know how to describe it, right? And satisfaction's not the right word. Just kind of contentness of having brought it. You're really sweating, and you did it because you want to. You know, if somebody told me that I got to unload a semi, that was I never brought that up before. When I was working at Lowe's one semester, and my hours were rough because I wanted to. Basically, I had class in more like the evening, like noon to 5. That was kind of my class window for the week. So what I was doing at the time was I was doing the morning shift at Lowe's. So I was rocking like a 5 a.m. to 10, and then on the weekends I would do kind of longer ones. But yeah, that was a crazy routine. Let me just start it from the beginning. I'd get up for cardio like 3:30. Actually, no, more like straight up 3. This was only one semester. I did not do this for that long. But like 3 o'clock wake up, cardio, shower off, get my get my flannel and jeans on, because this was kind of in the fall sort of time, and then get ready to drive up a couple miles to Lowe's. I was in the garden department. Right? If you needed help where a lawnmower was, or like a weed whacker, or a certain kind of whatever, that was me running around and making sure all the shelves were stocked. But sometimes they'd throw us in the back, or because they needed because it was a totally separate position to unload deliveries and like package them. We'd have like 8 pallets where it's like, okay, this is going to hardware or whatever. And they always asked me to go back there, probably just because I was kind of big and they wanted me to lift shit. I should have said no. But if somebody told me to do that and just move and like be sweaty, just moving a bunch of stuff around, it would be very fun, you know, because I don't want to do it. But you take basically the same, if not more effort, and you know, it's me coming in to do a chest day or an arm day, or I'm literally doing more physical work, but because I want to do it, it doesn't feel like a chore at all. It's an activity, you know. So I was getting into this a couple days ago, where you can basically cheat the difficulty of any given task by kind of just your mental perception around it. You know, if you're somebody who just has like this serious, legitimate itch to get better at something, and it could be anything, it doesn't really matter what it is, then for you to practice it and get better at it because you're interested and you're invested and like you want to do it. You don't want to do it because like it's gonna show somebody, like you just on a base level, you and your heart, actually not even your heart, just more your mind, you're like, I'm going to hit legs, I'm gonna go crazy if I don't take all my sets to like solid intensity, then that's just not even what I'm there for. Like that's not even a question. Then that guy's he's gonna do it, right? He's gonna go harder, you know. So it's I don't know if I'd even call it a question of desire per se, because everybody wants it, right? If you could flip a switch and let's say your mental image of a really cool version of how you want to look physically, whether it's like, you know, a cut up kind of more like lean, mean, sort of like 180, just kind of, you know, like athletic kind of build, if that's your deal, or if you want to be a bit beefier, more like a 230 or whatever, you know, if you can immediately flip a switch or press a button and just jump to that instant, like your most badass build that you can imagine, right? Or not even like something like that, but just being in good shape, everybody would do it. You know, put them in a closed room, nobody's watching, everyone would do it. But the fact that we live in reality, this isn't a freaking fairy tale world, and to make something like that happen is going to take time, take effort, take patience, then that's the real tricky part. So, you know, to say it's like, oh, you don't really want it, I don't think that's exactly right. Because I think everybody wants it, you know? But it's more so, can you handle the uncomfortability that it takes to get there, you know? And you've got 2 options when it comes to that, right? You can either really toughen yourself up and be the guy who can just eat like imagine someone who can do a full 6-month like chicken, rice, broccoli, no seasonings, no nothing, everything absolutely perfect, like no treats, no cheating, no anything. And the guy might have a ton of cravings, but he's telling himself, oh, I don't care, I can handle this. And then he handles it. Like he seriously does it. There's no stopping him. You know, cardio, 2 hours, just whatever. Well, that works. But there's also the component of, well, why does this have to be something that's, you know, hard? Like, why do I have to make this extra hard on myself? You know? So that's where, for me, dieting-wise, when I do cardio, I do the cardio that I like the most. I eat foods that make me feel more full, and I can, you know, manage my macros, and I can kind of add in, maybe I'll have a lighter meals throughout the day so I can have more of a cheat meal at night, you know, things like that. But you need a little bit of both, I feel, right? Because if you can't thug it out when it gets hard, well, then you're never going to get anywhere. I think we can all agree with that. But also, if you give yourself a routine that's too strict to handle, no, actually that's the same thing. Like, if you give yourself a routine that's too strict to handle, you're never going to do it if you can't actually thug it out. But if you expect everything to be easy, so like there's this secret of like if you eat 3 egg whites and apple cider vinegar that you're suddenly just going to get leaner than you've ever been and it'll just be completely effortless, well then that's not going to work either, So it's a combination of bringing serious effort forward internally, but also morphing your routine around something that you can resonate with and enjoy. If somebody gave me a workout routine and I didn't want to hear it, then I'm probably not going to have that much fun doing it, because in my mind I think I just want to do what I do. Now if I asked someone for a routine and I really trusted what they knew and had to say and I wanted to try their perspective, that's different. But that's it's something where I like the personalness of working out, because it's just you, right? It's they're obviously real kind of high level competitive guys, or guys who just want someone to deal with the planning for them. They're gonna have coaches, they're gonna have teams around them where they really help figure everything out, and they get to take some of the pressure off and he doesn't have to worry about it. But I like that it's an individual thing. I like that it's something that I kind of get to learn for myself, because then it's kind of twofold. For one, I think I've got a little bit of a disagreeableness where I'm like, this is my thing, I want to do it, I don't want anybody messing with it, right? This is for me. But also along the lines of like, I want to work for something that I get to show off because I did it, and no, it wasn't anybody else who did it, right? Nobody else did my cardio, that was all me, right? So that's kind of where my headspace is at, I feel. But it's just a balancing act of still being able to toughen it up, but also making sure that you pick a smooth path for you, right? Because if you're the last thing you want to do is burn yourself out. You want to become the guy who doesn't get burnt out because he toughens up over time. But you wouldn't give a beginner dude a Tom Platz workout. He's never worked out before. You got to start with more basic stuff, right? And work your way up. So that's the end of my little chest day rant. But feel like a beast, still pumped up even half an hour later. So now I go home. Go home, eat something, definitely drink something. I'm freaking thirsty, and then get ready for cardio in the morning, plus a back day later on, and just keep this leanness phase going. Cutzilla is a silly name, but I kind of like that it's silly. It's just a little bit unserious, kind of funny. But either way, I'll see you tomorrow.